someone you know probably is called in sick recently now that it's cold, flu, and COVID season. But many are moving on from the pandemic, and there are a lot of gray areas these days when it comes to rules and requirements. So, what are the COVID rules these days? First, what if you get COVID these days? The official guidelines from the Washington State Department of Health say if you test positive, stay at home for at least 5 days and isolate from others in your home. And you can end isolation after 5 days if symptoms are improving and you haven't had a fever within 24 hours. Employers are no longer required to pay workers who get sick with COVID, but many businesses now have their own COVID policies, which you should brush up on. Masking. There's no longer a universal mask requirement, but the CDC recommends you still wear a mask around others for 10 days if you have COVID, unless you test negative with 2 at-home tests 48 hours apart. And remember, in Washington State, masks are still required in healthcare settings. Finally, what happens if you think you've been exposed to COVID from someone at your office or at school? You don't need to isolate or take a test if you're not showing symptoms. Remember, doctors believe you can still get COVID-19 up to 10 days after being exposed. It sure feels like people are putting the pandemic behind them.
Right. That doesn't mean that the pandemic is letting us forget it.
Dr. Larry Corey, world-renowned virologist from the Fred Hutch, believes we still have a societal obligation to protect the most vulnerable in our community.
We pass people, in the parking lot. We pass people in the store, in the grocery store. It is prudent, and it is sort of taking care of the people that you love to sort of understand what your COVID status is.